We love cozy romances. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm doing a fun little recommendation video for a genre that I don't read that much of, but I really appreciate when I do pick up the right ones. And this genre is romantic suspense, but I'm going to be focusing on recommendations for books that are romantic suspense, but a little bit on the cozier side. These are the romantic suspense novels that are taking place in maybe a small town, really focuses on the characters' romance as opposed to the suspense elements that are happening also in the story, and something that you can really easily curl up to in bed and digest when you just want something that is relaxing but a little bit fun and a little bit more thrilling. So with all that being said, I know that I don't talk a lot about romantic suspense on my channel, and the reason is because I hardly read any romantic suspense, but when I do, I tend to gravitate towards books that are on the lighter romantic suspense side. I'm picking books that are on the fun side, the lighter side, and then there may be like some trouble that is coming to our heroine and hero's ways. So if you want to try romantic suspense, but you're a little bit intimidated by the genre, I think this recommendation video is for you. So the first recommendation for this video is actually a book that actually triggered the idea to even create this video in the first place, and this one is from a new to me author, but she is certainly not new to the genre. Her name is Cynthia Eden, and this one is one of her indie published romantic suspense novels called No Escape from War, and it's actually part of her Trouble for Hire series. This book was actually released maybe a couple months ago, so it's a fairly new release, and the second book is set to come out this year, and I am so excited to read that one because I absolutely loved the first book in this series. So No Escape from War is actually a second chance romance, and now this one involves two characters who had an explosive romantic relationship. The relationship lasted for a couple of months, but during that time they really felt a strong connection. There was a lot of chemistry that they had with each other, and they couldn't get their hands off of each other. It was mostly physical, and the one thing that both characters felt that they were lacking was an emotional support as well as like mentally connecting with each other. So what happened was that something triggered them to break it off and to break up and to basically get hurt and never see each other again. And they developed kind of an enemies to lovers relationship because they had a bad falling out. Our heroine is actually a journalist. She goes on the news and she solves a lot of these different crimes happening in the area. And what happens is that in their town there is actually a serial killer who likes to choke women and who likes to kill them, obviously. So our main female heroine is on the hunt for this serial killer so that she can break the breaking news and become like this super mega star. And what happens is that she actually gets entangled with the killer, and now the killer is hunting her, and now she has to hunt him down before he gets to her. And enter our hero, who is actually a ex-Marine, I think. He used to work in the army and he was like special ops. He's really good at fighting, he's really good at using guns, and he's really intelligent on his feet. He's basically the super soldier that everybody would want in a boyfriend when they want to be protected. And our hero never forgot about our heroine, and our hero actually resents her and hates her for a certain thing that happened in the past that caused them to break up. So what actually happens is that somebody asks the hero to bounty hunt for our heroine because our heroine is now suspected of all these serial killing murder charges, and he thinks that it's going to be super fun to arrest her and to put her in jail because he still isn't over the heartbreak that he suffered because of her. This is their romance between getting to know each other again, falling in love, and really fixing the issues that they had in the past, as well as all the other thrilling, exciting elements to somebody breaking into her house, somebody trying to kill her, and him just being completely smitten by her all over again. I thought the romance and the chemistry in this book was so good, and it was just so addicting to read, and I couldn't stop reading it. And now the second book is going to be coming out, I think, in July. So the next recommendation that I have for you is actually one that kind of started it all. It's one that I read back when I was in high school and back when I wasn't book blogging, back when I wasn't on Goodreads. So I wasn't really tracking the books that I was reading during that time. but I was obsessed with this one because I remember just sinking my teeth into this book and just completely being absorbed in the romance of this and in the romantic suspense. This one's from Lori Foster. This one's called Just a Hint, Clint. And basically our hero and his friends are like ex-agents, I believe, and they are specially trained in finding people and rescuing them and like hunting them down if they're criminals or if they have warrants out. So our heroine is actually kidnapped from the very beginning, and now her fiance has hired our hero's team to go hunt down our heroine, who is just supposed to be a very innocent school teacher and who is basically a normal woman in society. So our hero is kind of confused as to why she got herself tangled up in all this mess to begin with. She should not have that many ties to like gang related activities or to criminals. So he's confused, but you know what? He is out there to do a job so that he can get paid. But what happens is that he sets his eyes out on her and he feels this really powerful protective streak within him that he just can't let go of and can't ignore. Throughout this whole book, there's a lot of close proximity situations where he has to protect her and has to stay near her so that she doesn't get harmed in the process by people who are still out to try to catch her again. And our hero is just such a gruff man. He is definitely like a wall and he wouldn't like talk about his emotions. He is very closed off, but when it comes to her, he opens up a lot. He's also very vulnerable to her, and it's just so sweet to see him kind of melting and falling for a girl that he barely knows. So I thought that this one was really good, and hopefully you guys will pick this up soon and add it to your TBR. So going back to another high school recommendation book that I picked up when I was in high school. This one's from Victoria Dahl, and this one's called Talk Me Down. It's actually book number 1 in her Tumble Creek series, and I have read book number 2, and I think I didn't read book number 3 yet, but book number 2 was definitely kind of a little bit of a disappointment compared to book number 1 because I just fell in love with book number 1. So book number 1 involves our heroine who goes to a very small town, and she actually writes dirty, lovely romance novels, and she writes it under her pen name so that nobody really knows her identity because she's still a little bit shy and she's very secretive with her career, especially in a small town that everybody gossips in. And what actually happens is that she senses someone actually watching her in her home. She knows something's not right and nobody's really believing her. So she is trying to, you know, keep herself on her toes and try to sense out if there is danger lurking. And then enter our hero, who is a sheriff, and he is sent out there to investigate different things that are happening around her, but he's also feeling this magnetic pull towards her, and he can't get her out of his mind. And it's just so adorable and so cozy to watch this relationship flourish. Once again, it's kind of like an opposites attract romance. We have a character who is very grumpy, who's very serious, and who wants her to be alive at the end of the day and wants to protect her, but here she is being a little bit quirky and a little bit different from all the other girls in the small town. I remember reading this book when it was a giant snowstorm here in Canada, and then basically what happened was there was a power outage, and I, being a night owl, was reading this book at like 12 a.m. and I had one of those like book lamp lights on, and I clipped it on my book and I was just reading it in the dark under the covers in my bed, and it was just amazing. So hopefully you guys can sink into this one like I did. So the next recommendation that I have for you is actually from an author named Julia Harper, and it's actually a pen name. So if you guys know the historical romance author Elizabeth Hoyt actually wrote some contemporary novels under Julia Harper, and this one is a romantic suspense called For the Love of Pete. And this one I found it to be really cute as well. It's an opposites attract, grumpy and Miss Sunshine trope, and basically our heroine has a niece and someone just stole her niece in the car, and then now she needs to do everything that she can to get back her niece. But what happens is that she actually hijacks our hero's car, and our hero just so happens to be a federal agent, and now our federal agent is definitely not going to let her get away with just stealing his car. So he's along the way and along the journey to help her hunt down the niece and to also solve crimes in the process. I thought that this one was very quirky and very fun as well. So this book definitely happens at a very quick pace, and there's a lot of events kind of happening left, right, and center, but you still feel the strong chemistry. And there's elements of mystery to it, so it definitely keep you on the edge of your seat and definitely entertain. So the next recommendation that I have for you is actually a fun little indie romance that I picked up last year and I quite enjoyed, but my friends actually didn't enjoy it as much as me, but I liked it. So here it is in this recommendation video. It's Lies by Kylie Scott, and now this one is about our hero and heroine in a developed relationship already, but our heroine doesn't feel like the vibes are there anymore and that their chemistry is not there anymore, simply because our hero's personality is a little bit boring and she is completely bored by it, and she knows that, you know what, if she wants to be happy in a relationship, she should probably break up with him. But what actually happens is that right at the moment when they're about to break up, something explodes and suddenly things got a little bit more interesting. Turns out our hero is actually a special operations agent, and basically a lot of people are out to get his head, and because she is closely tied to him, now she's in danger too, and now our hero has to protect her. Now this one was absolutely thrilling. I listened to this on Audible and it was just so fun. So if you guys have an Audible subscription, or if you guys can purchase the audiobook, I definitely recommend you to pick up the audiobook, mostly because I feel like it really makes you feel absorbed and it makes you feel like you're in the scene, in the pages, from the voice actors who read the stories. And then it also goes by a lot quicker and it makes you feel like you're watching a movie inside your head. But obviously if you're not a fan of audiobooks, the book is probably good too as well. So the last recommendation that I do have for you is actually a book that I never read before. It's actually a new release, and it's actually book 2 in the Trouble for Hire series by Cynthia Eden that I did mention earlier on in this video. I thought that I would talk about it last, since it is a book that is not released yet. It's being released in July, and it's also a book I never read yet, so I can't really say that it is a good recommendation. But from reading book number 1, I desperately needed book number 2, because our hero in book number 1 has a best friend named Odin, and he is described to be as very quiet, very shy, and does not speak much at all, but he's super smart and he's like super good with computers and hacking and tracking, but he's also really good on the field as well. So he's like a bulky nerd is like what I like to imagine him. And he's very protective of the people he loves, so I'm already a huge fan of Odin. So the next book in the series is called Don't Play with Odin, and this one is my highly anticipated romance for the summer. This one involves our character Odin, who has to deal with a very annoying neighbor who is our heroine. Our heroine's really into true crime. I feel like she really likes watching the news. She likes keeping up to date with the crimes that are happening in her small town. And what happens is that she notices on the news from book number 1 that there was a serial killer. So she knows that, you know, the PI firm that was hired to kind of track down the serial killing could help her out with her current predicament, because the police doesn't believe her when she says that her next door neighbor might be a serial killer. So she actually hires Odin to come help her out and to actually track down the neighbor to see if the neighbor is actually a serial killer. And this one seems like an opposites attract romance once again, you know, sunshine and grumpy trope. I think a lot of the romantic suspenses that I do pick up feature this trope, and you can tell that I really like it. So hopefully you guys will like it too. But anyways, that is it for all the recommendations that I have for you for a cozy romantic suspense. Hopefully you guys can add this to your TBR and switch things up in your normal, typical contemporary TBRs or romance TBRs. If you guys have any cozy romantic suspense recommendations for me, let me know in the comments down below so I can add it to my TBR and I can read it along with you guys. But I'll see you guys again next time in a new video. Bye.